Hi everyone. I thought I'd do a piece on perception today and try and kind of explain the differences between a neurotypical perception and the perception of a person with Asperger's. Well, I can only really do my perception because I never will understand another person's perception well enough to describe it. But I have spent a lot of my time in my life learning how to understand a neurotypical's perception, uh, basically to bridge the gap between my understanding of what someone's trying to say to me and what I'm hearing. All right, so when I was overseas, I had a lot of people ask me to explain Asperger's to them, and you can't explain it in 10 minutes. And when you're overseas, you're usually only talking to people for about 10 minutes. But I did come up with a very good analogy that was pretty much my favorite so far. Best way I could explain Asperger's to another person is that we see the world in a different hue, in a different color, everything. So, can you imagine what a colorblind person sees when he sees a set of lights, but he can't see a green or a red? Obviously, he doesn't notice this at first. This is not something that's obvious to him. He's still seeing a color. It's not like the color just turns into black. I can't quite remember how it goes, but usually if you can't see a red, it usually changes to a different hue, maybe a green or maybe a blue, but he's still seeing the color. And because no one ever really points it out, it's kind of hit and miss with a lot of things. And I think it's the same with people with Asperger's. We still see things and we still notice things and we still react to them. But the thing is, when we think about it logically, when it gets to the part of our brain that processes that piece of information, that's where we process it differently. Because we've perceived it different, we're going to think different. It's like, I remember an old story about how a person showed a blind person, explained to a blind person what color was. So this person would, like, for blue, for instance, they got a stone and they put it in cold water, and then they got the blind person to put their hand in the water and take the stone out, and that's how they described the color blue. It was that kind of cold, crisp feeling, but still had solidness, and so on and so forth. You can kind of guess where the rest of that is, but it's all about how you perceive it, because a blind person doesn't get what color it is. You can't attach it to the emotion it gives you because they don't have the visual senses. And that's what I'm trying to get at. My understanding from what I've learned and experienced in my life is that basically you got a neurotypical way of seeing things, and we're just a little to the right, or maybe left, little left field. Who knows which side? But it's not that we're not understanding something that a neurotypical is understanding, and it's not that we're not perceiving it properly. It's that we just perceive it that little bit askew, that we get a different interpretation from it. I myself interpret a lot of things differently. Like, I was watching a movie last night with my friends, The Fountain. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's kind of a very complicated three-way reality story. Complicated. It's very mixed up. But um, we got into the debate at the end because it's the kind of movie you can get a debate with. Because at the end, everyone's kind of like, "Oh, I don't know if it's this, and I don't know if it's that." Anyway, we discussed it at length, and my perception of the movie was different from what the others had, because what the visual information was telling me was very abstract. It was telling me that these were three different realities within the story, and none of them was a continuum of either story. They were all embodying different realities. And my friends were disagreeing with this, and it wasn't until I'd actually had a thought about it today, and I actually linked a few other things in the story. I realized that the story element was more powerful than the visual reference, which actually said that it was only two realities, and that one was a continuum of one of the other realities. It's kind of difficult to explain if you haven't seen the movie, but my point is, I saw what was visually being represented as more important information than what the story was trying to tell me. If they had changed a few things in the visual art of the story and how they were presenting it, I would have probably had the same opinion as my friends, but because I rely more on visual connections and patterns, I could really notice that my vision was different from theirs. And this doesn't usually get in the way with a lot of things, but it can be quite confusing in social situations when a person says one thing and their body language is telling you another. I think this is why a lot of people with Asperger's have a lot of trouble learning body language and never get around to learning it because it becomes very difficult. And to be truthful, it's a bit unfair on us. I feel that we're expected to be able to read people just like a neurotypical when our way of thinking, when we don't expect you guys to read us. Like, there's a lot of things below the surface that we don't show you guys, show neurotypicals because, well, it's our business. And mostly, I find that for me, I tend to learn to deal with that myself. That's my business. And the fact that another person's not understanding my need in the situation means I need to make that need clear to them. But you don't always know your need, so sometimes you might even trip over yourself for it. Where was I? So yeah, so perception can be quite a skew for the differences between us, and I think this is where the learning difficulties come in. I think I have a huge theory based on this. I'd love to be proved wrong with some solid evidence, but so far I found that because people with Asperger's tend to just think that's slightly different and slightly left the center, outside of the box kind of thinking, when we get to a point where we're meant to be learning off everyone else, which is not easy for us because we do have mirror neurons and we do connect, but it doesn't work the same way. We're still perceiving our own emotions and our own feelings differently. And it just comes down to complicated dynamics like social interaction, and that we're expected to act in ways that they find normal. And the truth is that we don't see them as being normal. We don't see the logic in a lot of things until they're either explained very in depthly, or we find out that some neurotypical behavior can be just real right out just silly. I mean, just calling someone stupid just because they don't understand how something's happening is so irritating to me because, well, guess what? You don't know until you ask. There's no stupid questions in the world. It's just stupid people who don't ask them. Anyway, that's my little bit on perception. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'll get to any comments that I haven't got to yet. Just been pretty busy working all week. So, alright, have a good time, guys. Bye.